Welcome to History of you know what I mean. Welcome to History of Scrutonia 101 with me, Father Alexander. Now, let's start from the very beginning. The beginning is Madagascar. Now, the Madagascarian people, they weren't advanced to our standards, but they were advanced for their time. They used plumbing, and they used various methods. Now, let me just sketch a quick drawing of the land. So, what I have here is the green belt. This river right here is the river of the Golden Dragonfly, and this river right here is the Green River. It's not as important in the history of Madagascar, but it's still there because of the Groon people, which is what it's named after. Now, the river, the Valley of the Golden Dragonfly, also known as the Green Belt, gets its name in Madagascar as, well, Valley of the Golden Dragonfly. Or in Madagascarian, Macharia, which is where in English Madagascar is. In Madagascarian it's Mahar. Mahar. And that's it in Madagascarian script. Now, its capital was somewhere on the Golden Dragonfly. About right there. And this valley over here, close to it, but far away, take in mind this is a very zoomed out map. This is the matter of 50 feet, just this small difference. But this valley over here, or this meadow of the Deadly Frogs, and other people, the Frus live there. Another tribe of Madagascar. Their myths of the creation of Madagascar basically shows a golden dragonfly, which was their god, basically. Their godly deity was a giant golden dragonfly, and it flew over the valley, creating the river, creating the stream, and creating the valley. And with its wind picking up and moving the entire, all of the dirt there, creating a valley. In these people, in this empire, Madagascar, there were 7 different tribes. The Groon, the Mahar, the Frus, the Frandul, the Fishar, the Umanar, and the Patar. So, out of these, the Patar, also known as the Scruts. Scruts, of course, is in later Madagascarian. Languages we will cover next class. So, what destroyed Madagascar was a series of floods. Scientifically, what actually created the valley was a flood and not a dragonfly. So, a flood, much like the one that created the valley, destroyed the Madagascarian people. Also, the question of why did they live in this very hard place to live? It was by the river, yes, but it was very hot during the summers, very rainy during the spring. And so it was a very hard place to adapt to. The reason why they lived here is because it was better than the forests. Deep into the forests, there were things called the Devaler, beasts, demons to them. These things, the Devaler, they would kill anybody. They were complete beasts. They just... They would hide up in the trees and they'd jump down and kill anybody there. And so, this will come, of course, when... So, the reason they lived here is because the Devaler, they didn't like the sun. So, obviously, they would live in the places with the sun, close to the river, close where there was no trees in the valley. And so, that's why they lived there. They lived over the river. They had whole towns just over the river. And whole towns, whole moats, whole areas. Their capital, while not on the river, very close to the river, was in this area where there wasn't many Devaler, and they built city walls, of course, to keep this. They still were very tribal, though. And eventually, and it was very low area, too, so it still got destroyed in the flood. Now, when the flood came, it came in from the Grun River. That's why the Grun people, the three tribes that survived this flood were the Scruts, the Frus, the Grun, and the Frus. And the reason why they survived was because, number one, the Frus, they saw it the Grun, they saw it coming. They saw a wave coming down, because there was watchtowers further on the river. They saw the flood coming. So they evacuated into the forests, which was part of their decrease. Even though they, weren't affected by it, they still were a lot, because in the forests were the Devaler, and they were waiting there to destroy them. And so it was a horrific event. The only ones that survived settled in this forest where there were no Devaler, or fled into the forest where there was no Devaler. This tribe, Scruts, wasn't destroyed either, although it did flood there too, but there wasn't an initial wave that came through, so they were destroyed, but only weakened. And so were the Frus, because they lived in the Meadow of the Deadly Frogs. How it got that name, the Meadow of the Deadly Frogs, is because there were frogs there about probably half my height, pretty tall, and they would just eat people. And so, but they were better, because as long as you didn't provoke them, they wouldn't eat you. And so they didn't they didn't need to go into the valley to get protected. And so when the flood came, destroyed all but the Scroots, the Groon, and the Fros. So that pretty much wraps up the Empire of Madagascar. And now we go to the period that is most known for the creation of Scrutonia, Saint Scrutus. Now, the Scroots is where he came from. Scroots, very common name in the Scroots was Scrutus, which, well, actually, the Scroots actually got their name after, their name was the Pratari, but they got their name after the fact from Saint Scrutus because he was so popular. He was so influential in history that eventually, even though it was called Pratari for very long, they were renamed to Scroots. Because that is the people, that is the tribe that he came from. And so eventually, the young Scrutus wanted to travel the world. And he traveled all over the world, which is really just all over Texas. And he found an Orthodox monastery where he was converted and where he was given a set of rules and a set of stories, basically a new type of testament, but just additional books, which are the scrolls of Saint Scrutus. Instructions on how to live your life according to the Gospels. And some other stuff about angels and demons and all that. But, and so there he wrote them with the help of some friends. He settled in what is now known as Scrutonia, near where the capstones are. Let's talk about, so Saint Scrutus, you know, eventually he died, but he had many children, and that's what kept his bloodline going. Every Scrutonian is related to Saint Scrutus, because he is the father of all of Scrutonia. He is the father of the people of Scrutonia. And so, let's look at the other people. So we got Cochrane's Crossing. Or, sorry, this is research. This is Cochrane's Crossing. Capstone. I know this looks kind of dumb to you, because you don't know the full story, but there are different people besides. So, in the southern woodlands, close to, you know, the waterway, there's these type of, the people called the Coloria, or the Coloria. Or not the Coloria, the Coloran, sorry. Coloran. Forgot that name a second. The Coloran. So, these people, one of the guys from it, Cochrane, he left his homeland in search of land, much like Scrutus did. However, Scrutus settled in the same place where he was from, shortly, a short distance from where he was from, still in the same area. However, Cochrane, he went all the way north to close to north of Scrutonia, and he created the Cochranian people. A subset of the Cochranian people is the Capstones. Capstones got their name because in the Scrutonian independence, they were very known for marking their graves with giant capstones, as they call them, kapastone. Their language is kind of stupid if you ask me, but and I said we'll cover language. So yeah, there's the Cochranians, and then eventually the Capstonians. So basically, the next history is the next unit. You know what, let's do language next. Language. So the two mother languages of the region is Madagascarian and Coloria, or whatever it's called. So Madagascarian, after Madagascar was destroyed, it was, of course, the three tribes that survived: the Groon, the Fros, and the Scruts, or the Patari. So, and also let's talk about the how the languages were written. Madagascarian was written in Palm. That's why we get you know, the language that looks how Madagascarian is written. That very circular, that very, you know, curly letters. And so after they written in Palm, the Fros wrote in wax. They have very sharp, angular letters. As to not smear the wax. And the Scruts wrote in Palm. So these languages, Scruts, their language was traditional Scrutonian. Scrutonian. So this trad Scrutonian. The only difference between modern Scrutonian and traditional Scrutonian is it's written in Palm, and modern Scrutonian has more Capstonian words. The Groon written Palm also.